fat and I refuse to sit in some chairs. So,
I'm fat and I have no qualms asking for an extra belt in the airplane. So,
yeah, it's about safety. I'm fat and I own the space that I occupy. I'm not ashamed, I'm not apologizing. So,
I'm fat and I refuse to sit in plastic chairs. They're just not made for me. So,
damn straight. I'm fat and I'm not repulsed by my body. So,
I'm fat and I have a morbid fear of sitting on swings and the roof falling down on me. So,
welcome to Fatso, the podcast where we talk about the joys and sorrows of being fat women in India, heavy on the joy. I'm Ameya.
I'm Pallavi and today we're going to talk about the body positivity movement.
Yeah, what positivity? Okay, here's the thing. Body positivity is good. It's important. I have felt its benefits. But I'm really allergic to these movements. See, because the thing is, the positivity movement, for example, right? I find it super upsetting because this whole thing about no, think positive thoughts, you can do it, it's all in you. It's really not. A lot of the time, you cannot control everything in your life by thinking positive thoughts, even if you have, mind powers like Magneto. But the point is, it's like, I find it deeply upsetting because basically what it's telling you is everything is your own damn fault. If you would just get your shit together and not be such a sad, pathetic loser, everything good will happen to you. That's just not how the world works. Sometimes my life is going to shit because of systemic discrimination.
Okay, so it's not about all that.
Okay.
Really, there's so much more to it than that. So I don't know. Have you seen those hashtags on Instagram? Hashtag F your beauty standard. Hashtag lose hate not weight. Hashtag fat acceptance.
Well,
Hashtag fatitude.
I started following you, so yes.
Yes, right. So what it is trying to say is that all of us together as a community of fat women and men are reclaiming our space and saying, hey, we're fine as we are. We're okay as we are. We can wear good clothes. We can do stuff. We can travel. We can exercise. We can wear makeup. And we're beautiful. We're wonderful. We're just like any other person living on this planet. So that's what the body positivity movement is all about. It's not just about, hey, do affirmations standing in front of the mirror and magically you will come across this, new version of you. Not at all. It's about the fact that we can all have these conversations and we can all reclaim that we are okay as we are. Makes a little more sense?
Yes.
So there's a lot more to it than
Yes,
just
it does
that.
make more sense. I mean, okay, again, I know body positivity is about more than how you look, but I find this whole movement thing a little scary because that's my personal reluctance to join. Though somewhere I'm a joiner deep inside, but somewhere I'm also allergic to joining, which my therapist astrologer would say is because I am projecting. But so the thing is, I feel like in society generally, fatness is a lot more acceptable than it used to be, which we did talk about last week, right? That fatness, to some extent, fat is acceptable. Tamed fat, fat that fits into prescribed roles, mummy or grateful girlfriend, or, fat that wears clothes of a certain kind, which is not the clothes that I wear. Fat that doesn't, overtly sort of bring the cellulite to the front, right? When it comes to sex, fat is really fine as a kink. BBWs are really like it's a thing. If I had $1 for every time a boy has messaged me online saying, "Hi, I'm into BBW," and I'm like, "I'm into BMW, bro. What's your point?" Right? I mean, why are you telling me this? It makes no sense to me, right? So yes, we need a movement. We need it. But how much further than I'm okay, I'm allowed to look like this. Fuck your attitude. Fuck your beauty standards. How much further than that does it go? Can it go?
And you are absolutely right, because that is exactly what did bother me about this whole body positivity movement, because I felt it was a little shallow in the sense that it was only addressing the fact that, I can look in the mirror and say, oh, I love my curves. So I can do that. But the underlying thing of fat being unhealthy, that was something that really bothered me. Until, as I mentioned earlier as well, I read Health at Every Size by Linda Bacon. And the research, and I've done a lot of research after that, so it's not just this book. The research says that fat in itself is not unhealthy. It is the yo-yo dieting. It is the constant, changing the way you eat, not giving yourself enough nutrition, that whole yo-yo dieting, changing your body structure over and over again, forcing your body to change, which is unhealthy. In fact, there is research that says that, first of all, lifestyle diseases are not limited to fat people.
Yeah.
Thin people have it as well. So it is not an issue of fat, right? And
Yeah.
there is research which has shown that mortality rates for people with lifestyle diseases who are fat are better than for people with lifestyle diseases who are thin. So it isn't that, fat, diabetes, dead. No, there can be a fat healthy and there can be a thin unhealthy. So health is determined by what you put in your body,
Yeah.
and it is determined by a certain level of movement that you allow for your body. But do you know that it only takes 20 minutes of exercise, only 20 minutes of exercise for your body to be healthy? And that 20 minutes can be done in 10 segments, 10-minute segments. So the research has found that anything over 30 or 40 or 1 hour doesn't necessarily increase the health aspects of your body. It may increase muscle tone, it may increase other stuff like that, but it won't increase this. So there's a lot of research on this, and fat can be healthy, thin can be unhealthy. Now, where I do think the body positivity movement ends is in representation. Because there isn't enough representation, as per me, whether it's in healthcare or in the consumer industry or in pop culture. Yes, it is beginning, but there's a long ways to go, and the real impact will only be felt when we actually feel that we're being represented. Now, for example, I would love to live in a world where if the government starts a Fit India movement, I'm assured that yes, there are fat people sitting on that panel, and when they're talking about Fit India, they're talking about thin people getting fitter or slim people getting fitter, as well as a body like mine, and what a body like mine needs to be fitter. You know, I would love to live in a world where yoga, exercise videos, other videos like that, which are released by brands and the influential consumer industry, let's say, has a person like me doing yoga, or a person like me running, or a person like me dancing. Because, see, in our little worlds of Instagram, we do have people who represent us and who are doing all of these things and, so-called defying the fact that
Yeah.
fat people are not flexible or can't have that strength or can't move their bodies that way. But in mainstream, that representation isn't there. For me, representation is if I could walk into a store and buy clothes or lingerie or shoes, and just know that my size will be available because I also exist as a size, and I don't have to go onto some online platform which charges me exorbitantly, or find someone who will customize clothes for me, right? For me, it's about walking into a chemist and finding a face mask that will fit my face, or finding a crepe bandage that is okay for me, or a neck support which I don't have to ask, yaar, mere size mein fit aayega kya?
Yeah.
You know? So, representation is for me walking into an aeroplane and having already booked an XL seat and not having to ask for an extra seat belt, because the aeroplane knows that they will have a certain percentage of people who are my size walking into them.
Mhm.
So there's so much. So yes, while it is fabulous that we have this movement and it changed my life, I've said it over and over again that for me it was stepping into a parallel universe. But yes, there are limitations where representation is still a long ways to go.
Yeah, I think representation is also really important for another reason that we also forget, which is not so much that I see a fat person there doing something normal, which means I'm allowed to do something normal, but everybody else sees a fat person there doing something normal
Yeah,
and allowed to be normal. I mean, this is why Captain Marvel is amazing, because all the little boys can see little girls are the superheroes, you know?
absolutely.
And then they're no longer saying, don't be stupid, you can't be. They're like, nahi, maine to dekha hai, right?
Mm.
But I think for me, body positivity in the most literal sense of it is not. I don't know if it's fair to say it's something I haven't really struggled with, because obviously I have. Hello, fat woman. But I think that I was very lucky. Like, I mean, when you think about the biggest place where people run into trouble with body positivity, it's when it comes to sex and people of the opposite sex. Ma, if you're listening, stop. So, it it comes down to, I don't know, maybe I was just really lucky. But like the early people I slept with, like in New York City, which was so amazing. I was a sexy, desirable, can't keep my hands off you body. Yes, he was a Colombian man who spoke no English, and we were extremely different in our backgrounds, and there was no relationship potential. But it was like, yeah, I can do this. And this is a man who was like, get on top, and I was like, and he's like, no, you won't break me. Don't be stupid, right? And I did, and it was, amazing. But somehow, again, like I said, I've been blessed with the angels, the good men who have loved me in my life. I'm not afraid of my body being seen. I've got this thing in my head where I'm like, he wants to have sex with me. He has had sex with me. He has seen my naked body. Now, why this then put on sheet cannot walk around? Because what? That makes no sense to me, right? And again, I don't mean to belittle the people who are petrified by this. But somehow to me, that was never a thing I consciously had to deal with. I just sort of came into it. I would just walk around and nothing happened, right? And sometimes good things happened, right? Because suddenly they're like, oh, hello, round two, which is nice. And I've become a person who, bizarrely, for all my crippling insecurity and problems with self confidence I have in other parts of my life, I don't have it about my body. I am not. Yes, of course, I wish there were chairs, right? We come back to chairs a lot, but we may even give them their own episode. But physically fitting into public spaces, yes. Being taken seriously, yes. But I don't have a problem with accepting my body. With, my tummy, her name is Champakavalli. We call her Champa. I don't have a problem with holding her, touching her, with other people touching her. Maybe there was a time when I didn't like it. But then I've realized that why not? It's all just a part of me. And yes, of course, being a fat woman, there are certain things that you can't do in bed because literally physics. But it's okay. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that you are not a sexual creature. You cannot be a sexual creature. And somehow it's so beautifully liberating for me. Like this thing that I have had to tell my women friends who are in committed relationships of years and years, whose husbands are like begging them, try this, try that. And they're like, no. And I'm like, but do it. Just do it once. Come on, just do it. If I can do it, you can. I don't even know if this guy likes me. Like, he loves you. He's not going to leave you. Too late. Shaadi ho gaya. Ab kya karega? Right? That kind of stuff. And then they do it, and then they come back to me and they're like, oh my God, this was amazing. And, sometimes I feel like that's a part of it that doesn't actually get spoken about so much. That in the positivity and the loving, we don't also talk about this part of it. That you can be physically in your body sexually as well. It's not just about running and climbing and dancing and all of those things. That it would be good if we could also remember to be positive and understand that here's someone who's having sex with you guys. It's okay. Like, and guess what? If he's going to make a face, kick him out and keep his pants. Like, believe me, he's not, like, as I say, once I take my shirt off, he's not looking at anything. There's no blood in his brain. It's all good. Right? So maybe that's another reason why I felt like I feel squiggy about body positivity movements.
Yeah, but at the same time, the body positivity movement has helped me significantly in this area of my life.
Yeah.
Because there are women and men out there saying that, hey, look at this fat woman, skinny man, and we're in love with each other. And looking at those photographs made me believe it's possible, So I'm really glad that there are a whole lot of people who are being so brave and just putting it out there on camera.
Yeah.
That, here is this body and this body, which everybody says can't go together, but we're having a lot of fun. And definitely, I need far more emancipation and a lot more classes from you, girl. You need to start a class. Yes, you do.
I feel like that might go into like sex trafficking or something, so maybe not.
Oops. but really, in this whole aspect, so before the whole sex bit of it comes in, because I had I was very lucky. My husband was amazing in bed, and he really made it a point to pleasure me. And we did a lot of experimenting, and we grew together in that area of life tremendously. So that was absolutely wonderful. But when it stopped with him, I really went into this well of despair that there is never going to be any other man that ever would want my body or to have sex with my body, because that was the messaging. And it took all of this body positivity and seeing other men, seeing other men on social media making out or making love with women who were fat, it just sort of gave me that hope that no, hey, if this isn't working, doesn't mean your life is over, you know. But before that whole thing, for me, came my own acceptance of my body.
Yeah.
My own being able to touch my breasts and say, oh, it's all right, if you're not like up there,
Yeah.
just like it is in the porn movies, right?
Yeah.
And touching my thighs, which are huge. I mean, the circumference of my thighs is somebody's waist,
Oh God, yes, I have these friends, and I'm like, I will take two of your pants, stitch
Yes.
them together, and it will be one leg.
One leg, yes. And the hardest part was being able to look into the mirror and touch my belly and touch my stomach and
Yeah.
just say, wow, that's like really soft and pillowy. And, just get to that space of touching these different parts of my body and saying, look, I have hated you because I've been told to hate you. But when I actually spend time with you in front of the mirror and touch you this way, you feel good to me.
Yeah.
And if you feel good to me, then I'm sure I will find one person out of 7 billion on this planet whom you feel good to. So let's hang in there together.
Yeah.
So that is what the body positivity movement did do for me. It allowed me to do this for myself.
That is very beautiful. But definitely this thing about, for me, my nieces, they love to sit on me and lie on me. And like, there are so many pictures of me lying down flat with like two children squeaking and jumping on. I love it. I love it because it's a great way for me to hang out with them without having to do anything. But they always say this, and like I know she comes up to me, the older one, and she says, "You're so comfy, Chitsels. I like to lie on you and read my book." And I'm like, "Okay, do it." It's like it's a whole new way to look at this body of mine and say that, hey, here's this wonderful little sprite, this spark of joy, who loves it here.
Yeah. Okay, so Ameya, having said all of this, have you ever felt the need to educate other people on how you feel when they talk about fat?
Oh, you've known me what, like 2 months, 3 months now? Have you ever noticed my desperate need to educate everybody about everything?
That's a good one, about everything.
No, it's true. I mean, I find that this happens a lot with feminism as well. For me, all my activism has been channeled via feminism. But basically, the thing of trying to change someone's mind, trying to show them that there's another perspective, one that they're ignoring, one that they don't see, whatever it may be. But it's something that can be incredibly rewarding when you actually find someone who's receptive and learns or is willing to learn, and incredibly frustrating when you just have someone who's just like, but I'm right, but you're wrong.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just like, oh, please stop talking now.
Seriously.
So, and I also find that it depends a lot on my own headspace, because there are times when I have the resources and the energy and the enthusiasm to actually do it. But there are also so many times when I'm just like, fuck you, educate yourself. It's called Google.
Absolutely. Do your own research.
I also think that, yeah, it's a bit of a problem, right? That we put so much of the burden of education and all of these things on the people who are oppressed or discriminated against. But on the other hand, I also think that, I will never know what it feels like to be standing up out of a penis. So the only person who can explain that to me is someone who does it.
Correct.
Right. So equally, there are men who don't even realize the way that we are constantly worried about safety as women. Or there are people who are not as fat as us who don't understand how you enter a room and you scan the chairs,
Yeah.
right?
True, true.
How do we deal with people who keep on saying stuff about your body without the invitation?
Yeah. Well, to be quite honest with you, and you also know me now for like the last 2 months. Honestly, if I realize it's a lost cause, my way of dealing with it is with a smile and yeah, live in your own world, and I'm perfectly okay with it. And I know it's a bit of a escapist attitude, but it's just that in the beginning, I really wanted to help people understand and educate and show them my point of view. And I was so gung-ho and enthu about it. And I realized that there are some people who, however much they may love you, they just stuck with their point of view. And they are not going to educate themselves. They're not going to research. It really doesn't matter. And, then it's like, which battles do you want to fight? So now it's like that. When, as you said, when someone's interested and you think it might really make a difference, then I talk about it. And when in the first few minutes of the conversation, I realize, okay, this person is not really interested, it's just their point of view and they're going to stick with it, then I let it go and I smile and I nod and I just,
I can smile and nod sometimes, but sometimes I'm just like irritated and I just can't deal with it. So then my reaction is very simple. I'm just like, yeah, all right, let's not talk about this. Or, no, I'm not interested in your opinion.
Yeah.
No, I didn't ask you that question. So it's very interesting because especially when complete random strangers comment on my weight, I tend to slap them back quite hard. Sometimes it's unfair, sometimes it isn't. Like, I went on this crazy trip last weekend, and there's these Russians who are Russian, and they were standing around, and these boys in a corner going, they're like frat boys, I swear to God. And one of them tells me, hey Ameya, can I tell you a joke? I'm like, okay, what? And he's like, oh, what's a great way to lose weight? So I just looked at him and I said, I don't need that information, especially not as a joke. So you can just fuck right off. And poor boy was deeply traumatized. And then later he came, he said, I'm really sorry. I was just telling you that the last time I came to India, I had diarrhea for 5 days and I was in the hospital and I lost 10 kilos. And I was like, oh my God, isn't that funny? And I'm like,
no.
No, but at least I get where you're coming from. I mean, I'm sorry I yelled at you. But on the flip side, on the train back to Delhi last week, I don't know. I don't even know what day it is. So on the train back to Delhi, there was a elderly, sprightly man, must be in his 60s, sitting in the coupe with me. And it was like he was talking to me in Telugu with a heavy accent. I didn't know what the hell he was saying. So I said, sorry, nak Telugu radandi, and I let it go.
Okay.
Then the next morning, he starts talking to me in English. And he says, ma'am, my daughter, she used to be very lean. But now she's become very heavy. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, oh, fuck, really?
No. It's an invitation. Like,
I know,
just
right?
being there is an invitation for people to talk about this.
And I'm like, also look at him, he's saying lean. I don't know how I feel about the fact that he's saying lean instead of thin. I feel there's something to unpack some other time. But anyway, so he starts telling me about his daughter. And he says, she used to be really lean and then she started doing this job. We have this agricultural university and so she runs the college and she looks after the kids, the students, and she takes them out all the time to eat food and things like that. And because of that, she has become very heavy. She eats all the junk food all the time. And now she's in very bad situation. She can't move. Because of that, her husband also cheated her and everything. And I was like,
smokes.
and I'm waiting for the payload, right? Which is going to be like, so if you don't lose weight, your husband will cheat on you. And then he looked at me and he said, I look at you, ma'am, and I'm happy. You're able to move, you're able to travel, you're able to do everything yourself. Because I had a middle birth and I hopped in and out 3 or 4 times.
Not bad.
And I was just like, oh, heart.
Wow.
Because that's the thing, I guess people can surprise you sometimes. So I try to not slap them until they have asked for it. Because sometimes it pays off, I guess.
Yes.
One thing I think that is quite interesting to look at in all of this, right? And I think we talked about this in the last episode a little bit too, which is like, thin privilege and body positivity and fat liberation and all of these things. it's not all sunshine and roses like body positivity. What are the other, like, what has been your experience of this dark side?
Yeah, I was quite surprised actually at the dark side of body positivity because, Tess Holliday talks about it, about how people say it's okay and she passes because of her very pretty face, and that's something a lot of people have told me as well, that, oh, it's all right because you have a very pretty face. And it was amazing because I came across these definitions of fat. I don't know if you know that there's something called infinity fat. There's super fat, and then
Infinity fat.
there's infinity
Thin
fat.
fat, small fat.
Yes. And I was stunned, when I saw all of this, because that means even as fat women, we're classifying ourselves into acceptably beautiful fat women and not. And I don't have, my fat is more on my stomach and my thighs. I don't have like those big breasts sort of fat. But apparently,
I do.
yeah, baby, you do. And I love it. Uh-oh. But, so there was a point in time in the body positivity, in that whole phase of mine, where I was like, hey, hang on a second. I thought any body is okay. Now, do I have to look at my fat body and say, but hey, my fat is not in my breasts, it's in my stomach. So actually, I'm not an acceptable fat body,
Ay, jeez.
And of course, I had to get over that whole phase. But there was a phase where I was like, oh, shit, man. I mean, okay, I can accept my fat body, but I wish I had bigger breasts.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I think that what it boils down to is fundamentally we're so deeply conditioned to always seek some approximation of beauty. And Sofie Hagen, whom, as you know, I'm a super fan of, please read her book. It's called Happy Fat. She talks about this as well. She talks about Tess as well. She says that not only is Tess, she has a pretty face, yes, but she's also conventionally, she's fair-skinned, she's white, she has
also
red hair, light-colored hair, all of those things as well. And Sofie makes this point, which I really love, which is that you can be body neutral. You don't have to love your body, because sometimes it's also pressure on yourself to love your body, right? And it's also, while classifying fatness within fatness is a problem in some ways, I also think it's true though, because as somebody who's fat, again, I will not have the same experience as someone who's 8 sizes larger than me, right?
Of course.
I mean, even myself, 3 years ago, X kilos lighter, okay, 3 years ago, 30 kilos lighter, I still felt fat and ugly and rejected and all of this. But I guess my clothes, I could fit, like, I don't have the kind of problems I do now. So the way the world rejects you, the way the world plays on you, that definitely is a factor of how fat you are.
Yeah.
So to some extent, the intensity of the trauma, the rejection, all of this changes, the shame. I think it gets dialed up the fatter you are and dialed down by various other intersections. So you could be thinner than me but really dark skinned and therefore get it double whammy, for example.
Yeah.
So there, I don't think it's as simple as yes or no, but it is problematic. And to me, the dark side of the body positive movement is its co-option by capitalism. But this is not a Marxist podcast, so
But
I'm not really a
like,
Marxist.
I really like what you've said about being body neutral, For example, when
No,
we were
Sofie,
doing...
not me, but her.
Yeah, okay. Well, you've resonated with it
Yes.
and you're talking about it. You know that Instagram handle of the ugly woman?
Yes.
I love her. I really love her. And it's because, remember when we did those videos of Have You Ever Felt Ugly? When I looked at my video later, I felt like a bit of a sham in it, to be honest. Because it's not that I don't really feel that way. I do. But then I was thinking to myself, why is it important to be beautiful at all?
Yeah.
Why not just be neutral? Why? Because actually that's the truth. I don't look at people anymore and think, oh, that's ugly, or oh, that's beautiful. Not even men, quite honestly. I look at a person and it's just the person. I'm not like calibrating that whole compartmentalization of, is this good looking or is this not good looking? And I wish I could feel that state more and more, even for myself, where I wish even trying to be beautiful wasn't a thing for me.
I know, and I mean, I think it's a bit of both. Like, to me, I look at someone, well, at least people I am sexually oriented towards. I'm not going to say that, oh my God, that man is beautiful. I might look at a man and say that, oh, look at that classic face, but it does nothing for me. But there are also the men who do something for me. And often once I've talked to them for 10 minutes, it goes away because there's no brain fizz, or there's nothing and it comes on like crazy because there's brain fizz. So obviously it goes differently for different people.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would say that I don't see beauty. But then, as we know, I'm the less evolved person on this podcast.
Oh, come on.
So she hates it when I do that, guys. So obviously, I'm going to do it all the time. But maybe it's a goal to reach for,
Yeah.
Maybe it's a goal. Though the main thing I feel that is the value to be derived from fat liberation or body neutrality is finding a way to deal with the constant dysmorphia we all put ourselves into, which comes straight out of good old patriarchy. Sir Patrick. Not Stuart. Sir Patrick Stewart is a god.
Those dance.
How did you get here? I've made my peace in some ways with my body, with shame, with feeling rejected and all these things. But how did you get to this place where you genuinely are one of the few people I know who's genuinely like when I say to myself, I'm beautiful in this sari, I don't really think so on some level. I'm just like, tell yourself that till you believe it, girl. So, but you are the only person I know who's like, it's coming right from your heart. Well, other than children.
Well, babe, serious hard work.
Yeah.
Serious hard work and time. You do know that I have a past life where I've done a lot of the emotional, the emotional freedom technique, EFT. Well, a lot of people know it as Reiki and pranic healing and all of those healing things. But there are a lot of modalities or tools that are more emotional based and more logical, right? I do a lot of work with family constellations, etc., etc. And I used all of those tools on myself and my body. I have had so many conversations with my body. I used to write 150 things I was grateful for every day for 6 months. Every morning, I would open up a Word doc and I would write 150 things I'm grateful for. And half of those had to be about my body.
Holy.
Actually,
okay.
So I have done that level of work. I still do that level of work. But that's the work I do.
There's a whole rainbow of options and ways and methods, and you just have to stop believing that there is some rule that is homogeneous and universal about how you look or how you deal with how you look or whatever it is.
So, based on our previous episodes and some of the feedback we've been getting, we thought that rather than do reflections, we're going to set a challenge for ourselves over the next 2 weeks and maybe interact with all of you on social media for that challenge in case you're up for it.
Well, we may also do other stuff. We'll keep mixing it up, okay, guys? We don't want to get bored, right? Because this is all about us. So we thought that what would be a fun thing to do would be the next time a person talks to you about your weight when it's not relevant, stand up for yourself and just say, you can say it politely. You can say, look, I didn't ask for your opinion about my body. Can we talk about what we're really talking about? It's horrifyingly difficult the first time, guys, but you can do it. And we're going to do it too.
Correct. And share it. And we really hope that you would send us your
share
stories.
Share it with the hashtag #FatSoChallenge. Tag us, share it. And I think that's it. That wraps us up for today, right?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. So that's it. You can find us, as you know, on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Fatso Podcast. FATSOPODCAST. This episode was recorded partly at Quadanote Studios and partly at Mancho Media. Our photographs were taken by Suraj Ajitkumar. Our music was made by Anand Sharma. And our logo was made by Yash. This episode is produced by moi. That's it, guys. Thanks for listening.